y'all, Happy New Year, or happy belated New Year. It's the middle of January. I had a little bit of a busy start to the year, but today we're going to be wrapping up my 2022 reading goals and setting new ones for 2023. So let's just get straight into my 2022 wrap up. I have my notes in front of me, so if you see me looking down, that's why. Okay, so for my Storygraph reading challenges, every year I set my yearly goal at 52 books because I feel like that's manageable for my reading pace. I don't really want it to be like a challenge in that it's stressful for me, so I never increase it. I used to, but I don't do that anymore. And I read 69 books, so I'm happy with that. Last year was my first year doing a pages goal. I don't remember if they introduced the pages goal last year or if last year was just the first year I actually did it, but I didn't know what to set it as. So I think I started out at like 10,000 pages. And then by the time I hit 52 books, I was a little bit under 20,000 pages, I think. And so I just rounded it up to 20K, or maybe I was a little bit over and I rounded down. I don't remember. But anyways, I read 27,479 pages, so I'm happy with that too. And yeah, so 20,000 pages will be like my baseline from now on. For those who don't use Storygraph, they have like community reading challenges that you can like make like prompts for, and then like other people can join. And so somebody had made a reading challenge that was called Bookstones of the Month. And so basically it was like you read a book with a cover that matches the birthstones of each month. And so I did that. I read 12 books for each of the birthstones, and that was fun. Some other goals I had, I wanted to read more nonfiction, and I did read more nonfiction than I have in previous years, but I still feel like I could do better. Of the 69 books that I read, 6 of them were nonfiction. The other like main goal for the year that I had for myself was to prioritize my physical TBR. Of the 69 books that I read, 53 were books that I owned, so I'm very happy with that. I really expected it to be a struggle for me to actually prioritize the books on my physical TBR because I'm such a mood reader. I feel like my brain is always trying to chase the hype of new releases, and some of the books that I read were like new releases that I bought throughout the year. I don't know how many of the books that I read last year were books that I owned before the beginning of the year, because I wasn't tracking that at first, and I will be tracking that this year. So we learned something from this. But like, I don't really care how many of the books I read that I owned were books that I bought last year. I'm just happy that I was actually like prioritizing my physical TBR and that it wasn't as hard of a task as I thought it was going to be. So for my Q4 wrap up, I think I only had 2 goals because I wanted to take it easy for the end of the year. One thing I do think I have learned from planning out this video is I need to start like writing down the goals that I talk about in these videos, because I always type them up in my Notion when I'm scripting the video, and then those notes just get lost to the Notion void, and they're hard for me to find. So I'm gonna start writing them down physically, not on these note papers. I'm gonna do it in a notebook. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. I really only had 2 goals. I wanted to finish my like adult fantasy physical TBR. I had a shelf dedicated to adult fantasy, and there were only like 3 books left, I think, and I wanted to finish that. And then there was a YA fantasy shelf. I believe it was this one that was right behind me that I also wanted to finish. As you can see, the situation here has changed. I talked about this on my Instagram, but for those who don't know, we had some people over working on our air conditioning. The door to the basement was open all day, and my books were exposed to some humidity. I didn't know that it was humid in the winter here, but apparently it is. And there was some warping of my pages, a lot of them being my special edition with pretty sprayed edges. What I ended up doing to try and salvage them was weighing them down with other books on my shelf for a couple weeks. So the next few videos, y'all will be seeing this. But the fun thing about this is that after this whole situation is dealt with, I get to do a reorganizing my bookshelves video. So keep an eye out for that. So there were like 3 books left on that adult fantasy physical TBR. I was able to finish 2 of them, and then the last book, I like read most of it during 2022, but I didn't end up finishing it. I finished it on January 1st. And then for the YA fantasy shelf that I wanted to finish, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think 9 books left on that shelf. And again, only 1 left by the end of the year. The last book that I had to read on that shelf was 6 Crimson Cranes, and I just placed a hold on the audiobook from my library. Too late for me to get the audiobook before the end of the year. So I will be prioritizing reading that duology. Probably not this month, just because I want to read the books back to back, and The Dragon's Promise is going to be a little bit of a long wait, but definitely this quarter. I think I did pretty good. Only 1 left on each of those shelves. So yeah, that's my wrap up for my 2022 reading goals. Okay, so let's get into my goals for 2023. We'll start with the Storygraph reading challenges, and look, I may have gone a little overboard with those this year. Okay, 52 books as always, 20,000 pages as always. I think that's manageable for me, especially considering last year. Like I said, I may have gone overboard with the Storygraph reading challenges. So, G from Book Roast does an awesome magical readathon every year and has made like a little reading challenge to do throughout the year, and it's like 1 book a month, except for the months that we have like the readathon going on. For those months, it's like the prompt is the readathon. So somebody made a Storygraph challenge for that. It's called Magical Readathon Adventure in LDR. So there's 12 prompts, and I'm doing it. It's gonna be fun. I'm also doing the A to Z challenge. I've never done that before, and so I'm like, maybe this year is the year I try that. And then I have a couple of reading challenges related to a Patreon that I subscribe to, and there's like an easy mode and a hard mode of it, but I'm not going to share those because they're exclusive to that Patreon. And then, okay, towards the end of the year, I kept checking the Storygraph reading challenges to see if the creator of the Bookstones of the Month challenge made one for 2023. And I never saw one. So I made one myself. And then I got really excited about making Storygraph reading challenges. So I made astrology themed reading challenges. I made like a reading challenge based on the astrological correspondences of each sign. So there's like 12 prompts for each sign, and then there's some bonus prompts that are a little bit more variable based on whether there were extra correspondences. Anyway, I'll leave a link down to my Storygraph. I won't link to all of the astrological ones because there's 12. If you go to my Storygraph page, you'll be able to find them there, and I'll link to the birthstone one. So okay, so I'm doing the birthstones one, and this year, so the way that I did the birthstone reading challenge last year was just like throughout the year, if there was a book that I read with a cover that matched a birthstone, then I would just apply it to that prompt. But it occurred to me in like November or maybe December, towards the end of the year, I was like, wait, I could have been doing this like each month. I read a book for that birthstone, and I was like, see, I gotta do this birthstone reading challenge again in 2023. So that's how I'm doing it this year. I've already read my January book, so I'm just looking forward to being able to do February. So that's how I'm doing the birthstone reading challenge. And then the way I'm doing the astrological correspondences thing is I'm doing my big 3. So I am a Pisces Sun, Aquarius Moon, Leo Rising, and so I will be doing the Pisces, Aquarius, and Leo reading challenges. And I haven't decided yet fully how I'm doing that. I might try and do them each like during their corresponding seasons, but Aquarius is right before Pisces, so it's like a lot to do in like essentially 60 days. So I don't know. And then like have to wait for Leo. Anyway, I don't know. And next year, I'm thinking about trying to find a way to make a challenge that's like more so based on the whole birth chart. I don't know how I'm going to do this yet, but it's something that I'm thinking about and I'm planning for next year. But I was like, this is too complicated to try and figure out in January, so it'll be for next year. And I might come up with a tarot one as well, but I don't know because there's already like a bunch of tarot reading challenges in existence, so I don't know if it's like worth it, but we'll see if I can think of a way to like make it different. I don't know. Okay, so those are all the Storygraph reading challenges that I will be doing this year. It's a lot. The way I'm doing it for now is one book can count towards 2 different reading challenges. If this proves to be too difficult of a challenge, I will up it to 3 or 4 if necessary. Again, I don't want my reading challenges to like stress me out. I just want them to be fun. And so far, it is a lot of fun for me and I'm enjoying it. Okay, my other like yearly reading goals before we get into the first quarter goals. As of December 31st, 2022, my physical TBR was at 128 books. And I'm not getting that physical TBR down to 0 this year. I think, however, I can read half that amount of books off of my physical TBR in 1 year, which is about 64 books. I read 69 books last year. That should be doable. They don't need to all be books that I bought in 2022 or earlier, but I would like most of them to be books that I owned before the beginning of the year. But I also still want to be able to read like any of the new releases that I buy this year. I'm really excited for some of I have 2 subscription boxes. I have the Adult Fairy Loot subscription and the Illumicrate subscription. I love them both. I'm very excited for some of their early picks, like the picks for the first few months of the year so far. So I don't know like what percentage yet I want to be books that I already owned and what percentage of like new books I'm okay with. I think what I'm going to do is see how this first quarter goes and then solidify that part of this goal in the second quarter. So, physical TBR, 64 books. And then next year I can work on getting my TBR down to 0. And then nonfiction. We established I was not happy with how many nonfiction books I read last year. I wanted to have read more. What happened was I kind of just ended up forgetting about this goal towards the end of the year. I think in quarters like 3 and 4, I wasn't setting goals surrounding reading nonfiction. I don't think I set any quarter 3 goals, right? That was a tough part of the year for me, health-wise. This year, I want to read at least 1 nonfiction book per month. I think that is doable. Another goal that I have for this year is to start reading more in Italian. I studied Italian pretty much all throughout high school and college. I have family in Italy, so making sure that I don't lose the Italian that I have is like really important to me. And in the last couple of years, I've been like so preoccupied with the whole chronic illness situation that I've kind of feel like I haven't been focused on anything but my health. And this year I want to focus on my health, but I also want to focus on doing the things that I enjoy because I don't want to be miserable all the time. So yeah, start reading more in Italian. And then I have a couple of goals surrounding my spending habits. Y'all know by now, I'm really happy with my new book buying ban strategy of reading twice the amount of books that I purchased off of my physical TBR before I can buy more books. That's really working for me. I'm gonna add to it, sort of. It's not really like a book buying ban, but it's like when I do buy books, because I have 2 bookish subscriptions, sometimes I don't want to miss out on like special edition sequels, but I don't necessarily know if I even like the first book yet. This was something that I like noticed towards the end of last year, and I was like, I need to get this under control. What really made me like pay attention to this was I was considering buying, I think it's called A Marvelous Truth, and it's like a companion to, A Restless Truth. It's a companion to A Marvelous Light, and hopefully I'm getting those titles right. I don't actually remember because I DNF'd the first book, and I was not into it at all. I thought I was interested in the companion, but I was not a fan of the writing style of the first book, so it's like, I don't know if I'm gonna like the second. So I don't think I'm gonna buy the second one. And then I read Winter's Orbit, and I DNF'd that one too. That one I could be convinced to give another try, but I was not enjoying the there's miscommunication trope in that one, and it was really bugging me. And so I didn't buy the companion to that one either, and I was like, maybe I should start doing this more. Maybe I should be reading the first book in the series and knowing for a fact that I do want to read the sequel before I purchase special edition sequels. And for any other special editions that are outside of the subscription box book, they did a special edition set for Gideon the Ninth. I was on the wait list for the extra that they had. I actually had started reading Gideon the Ninth, and I wasn't into it enough to feel like I could buy that set, even though they're so pretty. But I didn't do it, so I'm gonna keep doing that. I will say I'm not off to the best start with this part of the goal, because I did buy the Illumicrate edition of Ninth House, but in my defense, I think the naked covers would make wonderful spooky season decor. And listen, I used money that I got for Christmas. I have no regret, okay? Anyway, I did try and read Ninth House last year. I had to soft DNF it. I wasn't into it. And I don't know if it was just that like I was in a reading slump or if I genuinely don't like it, but hopefully I was just in a reading slump. I was gonna try and read Ninth House before that sale went on, but I couldn't get the audio in time, and so here we are. Let's move on to my quarter one reading goals. In order to be on track for my goal of 64 books off the physical TBR, I need to read 16 books this quarter off of my physical TBR. I think that's pretty doable. For my nonfiction goal, I need to read 3 books, and in order to make this easier for me, I'm like setting like tentative TBR of sorts. So here's the deal. For January, I want to read Are Prisons Obsolete, but I can't get access to the audio, so that might be a little bit too difficult. But I do have a loan on the ebook, so there's that. But if I can't get through it without the audio, I'll finish it in February maybe. And this month's book will be The Color of Law, which I do have a loan out on the ebook and the audio. None of the nonfiction books on my physical TBR are books that I'm like particularly in the mood to read this quarter, so I'm not worrying about having these books be on my physical TBR. I want like a strong start to the year, and I feel like forcing myself to read a book about pandemics is going to be difficult. I have other books on my physical TBR that are nonfiction, but anyway. February, I want to read The Invisible Kingdom, Reimagining Chronic Illness, and then March, I want to read Polysecure, Attachment, Trauma, and Consensual Non-Monogamy. Read in Italian. Okay, I would love to show y'all my copies of these books, but unfortunately, none of the books on my shelves are moving even the slightest inch for another like 4 or 5 more days. Okay, so for the first quarter, I want to read Non soltanto un baule, which was a book that was like assigned reading for one of my Italian classes in high school, and I never actually finished it because I switched schools and switched to like a self-study program because my new school didn't offer Italian. And it's like basically a collection of stories from Italian immigrants in Italian. And I don't actually know how long it's going to take me to get through this book. It's pretty short, so I may be able to get started on the book that I have assigned for the second quarter of the year, which is am I gonna remember the title? I think it's called Le Streghe di Benevento. There's more to the title, but that's all that I remember. I don't actually know anything about this book. I just saw it on somebody's Instagram stories, and I was like, ooh, the title sounds cool. I don't know if it's like nonfiction or fiction. I don't know what it is. But based on the title that I did remember, it's about Italian witches. Okay, so the Magical Readathon Reading Challenge. For January, I'm gonna go left, which means I have to start a series. So I will be starting Truth Witch and hopefully catching up with it throughout the quarter. I don't know if I will end up reading. I don't think I'll end up reading the whole series this month, but February. Oh, okay. So basically, I think I can go either to like a forest or the sea. And so the prompts are like read a book with trees on the cover or read a book with water on the cover, I think. If I remember correctly. I did not write it down in my notes here. I just wrote that I will either be reading Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen, I think, or I will be reading Forest of Souls by Lori M. Lee. Y'all, it's so hard not being able to hold up the books because I don't remember any of the names of the authors. It's fine. It's fine. I have 1 more week of this. It's fine. And then March. I don't remember the prompt and I should have written it down. But I have a list here that I will either be reading The Jasmine Throne, Mask of Mirrors, or City of Dusk. It might have been a prompt that was like, read a book that's over 500 pages. So, depending on which of these books I have not read by March, those are the ones that I feel like I will be in the mood for if I haven't already read them by then. Hopefully at least one, probably more than one will definitely be left. Come on now, Nat. Birthstones. Okay, January. I already read my birthstone book for January. It was The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. February, I will either be reading Girls of Paper and Fire. I can't remember the cover precisely, but I feel like even though the cover reads as like really rainbowy, I feel like the background of of it is like a dark purple, which is perfect for amethyst. If that's not the case, if my memory is incorrect, I will read A Lesson in Vengeance. March, I'll either be reading Six Crimson Cranes or Kingdom of the Cursed for Aquamarine. That's my birthstone. The A to Z reading challenges, the Patreon reading challenges, and the astrology reading challenges, I will be doing at my own pace. I'm not setting numerical goals for these things because I just don't know how this year is gonna go. And then to be on track for my pages goal for the year, I need to read 5,000 pages by the end of this quarter. I don't really have any goals outside of the reading challenges and like the other yearly goals that I mentioned as of right now, because one, like last year, a lot of my goals were determined by the way I had my shelves organized. My shelves aren't organized right now. My shelves are organized by which books had the most page damage. And so I can't set those kinds of goals right now. Also, there's so many reading challenges. I may have gone overboard. So I feel like that's enough for the first quarter. And we'll see how this quarter goes, and we'll see what we want to do with the second quarter. So that's it for my 2022 reading goals wrap up and my goals for the start of the year. We'll see how things change. That's the other thing I love about doing quarterly goals, is like seeing if my priorities change. They usually do. Anyways, I think that's it for today's video. Let me know down in the comments if y'all have any reading goals for this year. Ooh, let me know how y'all did on last year's reading goals, if y'all set any. Have I been getting lower throughout this video? That's kind of the trouble of doing videos in a beanbag chair. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos from me, make sure to click that subscribe button as well. And if you'd like to be notified when I post another video, because, you know, kind of sporadic, you can click the notification bell for notifications. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!